Good afternoon, students. Our today's topic of discussion is going to be on cold water supply. At the end of this lesson, the students are expected to be able to state the sources of water we consume in our home. The student should also be able to describe what is called direct cold water supply system and state its advantages and disadvantages. The student should also be able to describe indirect cold water supply and state its advantages and disadvantages. The student should also be able to, by level of diagram, describe the two types of water supply system, direct and indirect water supply system. And lastly, the student should be able to describe the types of pipes and also their sizes used in cold water supply system. Having heard about the objective to be achieved in this lesson, we will first of all have to look into what are the sources of cold water supplies in our home. When we say cold water supply, this is the ordinary water we use in our home. Water is a necessity to every human being. And for us to exist in our home, carry out activities, we need water. And at this juncture, we want to look at what are the sources of water. When we look at water itself, we will find that water is natural. Water comes from the nature. It is from the hydrological background. We know water comes from rainfall. When water comes from the rainfall, some are absorbed in the moisture and some float on the surface. This water that floats on the surface are now used by various means to bring in water to our homes. The various sources of waters we have used in our home today include: 1, water from the stream, water from the spring, water from the rivers, water from the oceans, water from the well, water from the boreholes, and so many other sources of water. These are basically the major sources of water we have used in our home. Now we have seen the various sources of water. How do we get water into our domestic home? Basically, if you go to some homes, you see boreholes dug in their home. Others use the city central water system. What is city central water system? That is by water authority. We locally call them water board. They generate this water from the stream controlled by this water authority, and they tap this water through the water mains from the water mains and brings in this water to our doorsteps. It is from our doorsteps that we now take this water to our home. That is where we can see how we get our water for consumption, for usage in our home. Now, if you have this water, we shall now go to look at how these waters are being supplied to our home. Before then, we will look that this water, when they come from the stream, are not really pure. The water systems or the water board, they have to treat this water to make this water a pure water. Now, if this water has been purified, treated by the authority, how do we distribute this water to our home? Now, we shall now look at the two basic methods of cold water supply system in our home. 1, we have the direct water supply system. 2, we have the indirect water supply system. we shall now discuss what is direct cold water supply system. If you look at most of our homes today, those in the urban cities, in the rural areas, most of them doesn't have the opportunity of either direct or indirect. We now have mostly in the urban cities where we take water from the tap and we connect it to our homes. In the direct water supplies, as the name implies, is simply the method of supplying water from the service pipe. The service pipe now will now take water and distribute it directly to all fixtures, appliances we have, without necessarily taking it to a water system. This method is a method where when the water comes from the service pipe, the water now goes to the toilet directly, it goes to the bath directly, it goes to the sink directly, it goes to the shower directly, it goes to the boiler directly. All this method is the commonest method we have, and it is called a direct water supply system. When we say direct water supply system, why do we even need? Because for everything you have to go, every step you want to go, you have to look at the advantages and the disadvantages. What are the advantages of this direct water supply system? One, in the direct water supply system, we have guarantees of quality water to take. We have the guarantee of quality water to take. Secondly, because the water comes from the mains, because of the pressure, you find that it has a high pressure water. Another advantage is that it reduces the cost of storage facilities for cold water, because the water comes direct. So we have now three advantages. Let's go for the disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is that when the supply from the mains is interrupted, there is problems of water in home because there will not be supply of water. Two, there is no possibility of storage of water. There is no possibility of storage of water because it's a direct system. So if you look at it, you see the direct system has advantages and disadvantages. We shall now go to look at what is indirect water supply system. In the indirect water supply system, as the water comes from the mains down to the service pipe in your home, instead of the water to feed in all the sanitary appliances, it does not do that. What it does is one, is that it only the service pipe from the main only supply the drinkable water from the sink with water from the mains. But any other sanitary appliances, any other water tap, is the water is now pumped now to a system. What is called a system? A water storage tank. In that type of system, a water storage tank must be constructed. The water storage tank now is constructed as a reservoir to reserve water, to retain this water before it is now in turn distributed to the what? To the sanitary appliances. So the water does not go directly to the sanitary appliances except for that of sink in the kitchen. So it is only where we now need potable water that the pipe serves that point. But any other place, it is served from the system. Now, if you look at it, you will now see the difference. This one, the water has to be retained somewhere else in the water system. A container or a tank that is built ahead, I call it overhead tanks, built in the house to retain water. It is in the service pipe now, it goes into the tank, and the returning pipe is there. The returning pipe now drains the water using gravity. In the direct system, it is using pressure. But this one, it is not using pressure to supply this water. It is using what is called gravity, because it's pulling against the force of gravity. So the water comes in there now to supply the toilet, it supplies the wash hand basins, it supplies the bath, it supplies many other fittings that is required in the home. So that is why it is called an indirect water supply system. Now, we shall now look at the advantages and disadvantages of this indirect water supply system. One of the advantages is that it is uninterrupted. Why I say uninterrupted? That when you have a reservoir containing your water, it fills the system. Anytime you want water, the water is always available. Even if there is no water from the main, you have reserve water, you can always have water. 2, it also reduces the risk of water hammer. What is water hammer? Water hammer, it is a kind of pressure that comes from the mains when it is under pressure and it's trying to negotiate a bend. When the water comes from the mains and you want to negotiate a bend, you see it will start cracking. You'll be hearing a kind of noise because the water is pushed by pressure. So because this one is coming under gravity, it is now reduced the case of water hammer. 3, indirect water supply system can still be purified. It can still be purified using some purification method. Those are the advantages of indirect water supply system. What are the disadvantages? When you look at the system, you find that it requires extra cost of installations of this water system. It requires extra cost of installations of this water system. 2, it requires more piping. It requires more piping. And 3, it requires more maintenance. It requires more maintenance. So you see, it has disadvantages and also advantages. As a student of building technology, when you find yourself on the site or you have met a client who asks you to come and suggest to me what kind of water supply system will I provide, it will be better for you to suggest to look at the advantages and disadvantages that is required, that is there, that will enable you to supply this water to these various homes. Today, you see most of the buildings we have seen around here, on those days when we have frequent water supply, people don't bother to go for the indirect water supply. People go for the direct because all the time you always have water, you go to the tap, you take water. But now that we have power problem, we have what is called interrupted power supply. So that is why one is not guaranteed to even go for the direct water supply. People prefer to use an indirect water supply. In addition to this indirect water supply, you also look at in homes today, because of lack of water supplies in most of our communities, most of our cities today, people decided to even go for boreholes. They use borehole, they pump their water, or use well, they do well, and they pump the water into the system, and the system supplies these sanitary appliances anytime we need water. You find now that the indirect water supply system is getting more popular than the direct water supply system. Having heard about the direct water supply system and the advantages, indirect water supply system, advantages and disadvantages now, we shall now go to look at a sketch, a diagram demonstrating the features of that direct water supply system. Okay, this is what we are going to see in the clip here. The clip here is going to describe to you a diagram of direct cold water supply and also the indirect cold water supply. You have seen the diagram here on the board. The diagram here is a clear picture of what it means. This is a building from the diagram you have seen here. The diagram here has a flow. In the first floor here, we have a sink. If you look at the sink here, we also have a WC here. We have another WC at the first floor. We have a bath and we have a wash hand basin. We have a wash hand basin. Now, if you look at it, the water main comes here. We call it the service pipe now. It goes in here. It gets connected here. When it goes connected here, the rule says that when you are connecting the service pipe to your house, we need to have what is called a stop valve. The stop valve is required here to control or isolate water. If you want to control the water supply there, this is where you put it in your property here, that is on your side. You will now see these dotted lines you have seen here. This wall here, it is a partition. This wall here is a partition here. But when you see this dotted line here, this one comes from the mains and it enters the building here. When it enters the building here, and we now decide to put what is called the stop valve here. The stop valve now supply. When it goes here, the water now here take off from here and supply the sink direct. This one, the water pipe now continues. This one here, it distributes light and supply the WC here direct. It goes up here, it goes up here, it goes up here and supplies this bath here direct. The pipe here, it also take off here, it goes up here and take off here to supply the wash hand basin here direct. The main pipe here now, the pipe here have a distributor here, which is also supply another WC here direct. There is a water feed here. It is having an overflow. The overflow here, when the water goes feeds here, it will overflow here and now goes down. And that is what is called a direct water supply system. Now you see everything here from the main cell supplying water here, it is being controlled and it distributes the water directly to all these appliances. So when you look at it here now, you'll find that when you come down, you look at other descriptions of indirect water supply. In the indirect water supply, the diagram here is still the same. But when you look at this description, you find that the piping system is different. What is the piping system? The water that you have seen here, the service pipe also comes here. The stop valve comes here. But when the water comes here, it only services the sink. It only services the sink. The pipe here pushes the water through the pressure pipe. It goes here. It does not supply any other sanitary appliances. Rather, it comes here to feed into the system. It feeds into this system. And as it's feeding into the system, there is an overflow. As it is going here, if it fills the system, there is an warning pipe, or what is called an overflow pipe, that is telling you that the water has filled the tank. And you now control your water from what? From the stop valve. So when it feeds in this tank now, the system, it now turns back here and supplies this water through this one here, the returning valve here. The returning pipe here, the pipe down here now, drops the water through what is called gravitational force. It is not pushed by any other pressure, but just because it's dropping down using the gravity. So it supplies this wash hand basin. It also comes down here to supply the bath. It comes here, it takes another pipe here, it supplies down to this pipe here, supply the WC here, and come down here to supply this WC. But the only difference here is that it is supply here from the main pipe that is coming here now, it supplies the sink straight without going to the system. Because we are afraid of contamination. If you look at this system, if it is not there, a gate valve is not provided, you will see that there is what is called back siphonage. When it's siphoned, you are not very careful, you find that the wastewater here can siphon through the pipe here and it goes into the sink. So a care must be taken. You see, that is why it is only taken directly from the bottom here. Before it goes up there, to have access to all these sanitary appliances, the water is there. But a stop valve is created somewhere else here to stop the water here dropping down to this place. When it drops down here, we find that this water can be fed with a contaminated water. So that is a diagram of what we call the indirect water supply system. And at this juncture, the students should be able to design a simple water supply system. Now, if you know how to design or make a sketch of this and see how you are going to distribute it, we will now look at what are the basic things that is needed. We want to look at the pipe that is required for distributing this water, for conveying this water, and distributing them to our home. Having seen the diagram of direct water and indirect water supply, it is important for us to know the kind of pipes that is required and their sizes used in the distribution of this water. You look at from the drawings we have seen, water is conveyed by a pipe. So what is a pipe? A pipe is a hollow cylindrical members used for conveying material and is also a structural component. When we talk of pipes, pipe is not only used for conveying water to our homes. You can use pipe for electrical work. We use pipe for transportation of crude oil. We use pipe for conveyance of refined oils. We use pipe for water distribution and so many other places. If you go to companies, you see where they use pipe for their own connections. But only our concern today is going to be on the pipes used in distributions of water, cold water distribution. It is not only for cold water distribution, we also come to see where pipes are used for hot water distribution. Now, let's have a look. The common pipes we have today, if you look at the pipes, the olden days, those days we used to see steel material or cast iron. So the common materials we are going to discuss today, it is one, the PVC pipe. What is PVC? Polyvinyl chloride pipe. We have the ultra PVC, that is UPVC, ultra polyvinyl chloride material. We also have an asbesto material. It's also used as a piping material. We also have the galvanized iron pipe, and lastly we have the steel pipe. The advantages of this closed PVC pipe: one, it is very durable, it is light, not as heavy, and also it is not corrosive. So in the designs of water supply, we must avoid anything corrosive. Anything that is corroded must not be used for piping. And that is why today we have seen majorly our piping system today of water distribution we use more PVC material. We can also see that sometimes we use asbestos material, something that is not impervious, that does not allow the passage of moisture. All those materials I have mentioned here are very good examples of these things I have mentioned. So you will now see that those are the type of pipes we use in water distribution. We shall also look at, when we have pipes, now how can you select a pipe? One, before you now select pipes are made of different sizes depending on what is going to be used for. We have various pipes. When you go to the market, you see them, but specifications are made. One, if you want to select a pipe for use, you must consider the distance I'm going to use the pipe to convey the water or to convey whatever I'm going to convey to his destination. I have to look at the distance. Two, I also have to look at the pumping system. Is my pumping system going to be a pressure one, or my pumping system is going to be a gravitational one, or other method of pumping system? Thirdly, we have to also look at the volume of the material is going to convey. Is it going to convey heavy volumes of material, or is it going to convey a less volumes of material? If you have decided, look at the factors to be considered. The three factors should be able to decide to you the size of pipe you are going to select in water distribution. Now, we shall now look at the various pipe sizes we have. What are the various pipe sizes we have? Commonly, we have the 12 mm, it's a very small one. In the pipe, when we talk about pipe, we want to look at pipe. How do we measure the size of a pipe? You look at the interior, the internal diameters of the pipe. That is what determines the size of a pipe. So when we look at the pipe of 12 mm, we are now looking the internal diameter of that pipe. So we will now look at it. We have a 12 mm pipe. Sometimes we confuse tube and a pipe. When we want to look at tube, tube is also a hollow cylindrical material used for conveying other things like water or other. But mainly, we use pipe for water distribution. In the tube, they measure tube based on the external diameter, not internal diameter. And that is the difference between a tube and a pipe. For the purpose of these lectures, I said, we are using pipe, and we have 12 mm. We also have 18 mm. That is, the 18 mm is wider in size, in diameter, than that of the 12 mm. If you go to the market, you can also find 25 mm diameter. You can also find 38 mm diameter. You can also find 50 mm diameter. You can also find 100 mm diameter and find about 150 mm diameter. So these diameters now, like I have said, you have to consider these factors and be able to select, because you know, as a designer, you know what you require for the distribution of this water. So the quantum, that is the volume, the distance where you are going to lay the pipe, and also the pumping system that should guide you in designing this. At this juncture, you will see that one, you have been able to judiciously look at the cold water supply system. And anytime you find yourself, maybe a client with a client, the client asks you to make a simple design, or design for him, choose for him, whatever, you should be able to decide, choose for him appropriately the best method to be used in supplying his home with cold water. Having taught what is the source of cold water and how cold water directly is supplied and the advantages, we also look at the disadvantages of a direct supply system. We were able to look at what is indirect water supply and also look at the advantages and disadvantages. The student, having gone through this lecture very well, they should be able to answer the following questions. We shall now look at questions. We pose for questions and the student will attend to them. One, that the student should be able to list out 5 sources of cold water to our home. 2, the student should be able to differentiate between direct and indirect cold water supply system. 3, the student should be able to draw a simple direct cold water supply system. 4, the student should mention at least 5 different common sizes of pipes used in cold water supply system. At the end of this, the student should be able to answer these questions and send these answers through my email address, that is muazinbeji@gmail.com. muazinbeji@gmail.com. This course we have discussed is about cold water supply system. Like I first of all said in the class, that water is a necessity to everybody, and we need water in our home. I also look at what are the sources of water we use in our homes. I mention river, I mention ocean, I mention stream, borehole, wells, and so many others we can find around us. Now, if we have this source of water, now in urban cities, we used to have this water authority who constructs water and distributes water to various homes in the city. What are the two methods of water distribution to your home? I said the common two methods of water distributions are either direct or indirect. I said the direct is all about distributing water from the main, from the servicing part that is inside your house, direct to the various systems. Either the various sanitary appliances, that the sink, the wash hand basin, the toilet, the WC, the urinal, everything, it is supplied through that direct system. But when we talk about indirect, the water system only supply the drinking point, the potable water here, that is at the sink. The remaining water are taken down to a system up before it now in turn redistributed back to the sanitary appliances. So the sanitary appliances does not get their water directly from the source. What they do is that it will have to be taken to a water tank, and before the water tank distribute the water to various systems. So that is it. We also look at the diagram, differentiating between a direct water supply and indirect water supply. We also look at the types of pipes used, the PVC, the ultra PVC, we have asbestos cement, we also have the galvanized iron pipe, and also have a steel. All those things are the common type of pipes we have. And when we look at the sizes of the pipe, I said we have 12 mm, we have 18 mm, we have the 25 mm, we have the 38 mm, we have 50, we have 100, and also we have 150 mm. Those are the common types. I also say that in the type of selecting this type, we should put into consideration the pumping system of the water, 2, the distance of connections, and 3, the volume or the contents of water that is coming through the pipe. That will properly guide you in selecting your pipe. At the end of this lecture, you find that the lecture here will guide you anywhere you find yourself, in the school, at home, on the side, to be able to guide those who are not professional in the field in selecting the best method or in connecting water to their homes. Thank you.